Hey guys, welcome back to another extremely calm, deep dive into the soft underbelly of history. Asterisk. Tonight, we're drifting into something a little different. Not kings, not queens, not people with long, meaningless titles and even longer, meaningless noses. Nope. Tonight we're talking about the jobs nobody wanted. Asterisk. The careers so sad, so inconvenient, and so questionably scented that even the most desperate ancient peasant would pause and say, "You know what? Maybe hunger isn't that bad." Asterisk. So go ahead and dim the lights, grab your tea, slide into whatever blanket or oddly shaped pillow situation you've got going on, and let's drift back a few thousand years, slowly, calmly, with just a sprinkle of sarcasm to keep the neurons awake. Barely. Asterisk. Let's begin in ancient Egypt, because that's where most strange historical paths eventually lead. The Nile's most uncelebrated professionals. Asterisk. So, imagine it's 1500 BCE. Asterisk. You're a regular Egyptian sand everywhere. Linen outfit, probably a mild sunburn. Life is fine, if predictable. Most people farm, some craft pots, some carve things into stone so future archaeologists can write very long papers about it. Asterisk. But then there were the others. The people with jobs so unpleasant we barely talk about them. Let's ease into the first one, like lowering ourselves into a lukewarm bath. 1. The sacred animal poop collectors. Yes, this is real. And yes, someone had to do it. Asterisk. Egyptians worshipped a lot of animals. Cats, ibises, crocodiles, rams, the occasional sacred bull no one could make eye contact with. These animals lived in temples under the supervision of priests who absolutely did not want to pick up after them. Asterisk. So that job? Asterisk. It fell to the lowest ranked temple workers, who basically spent their days collecting divine droppings with a level of reverence nobody has ever brought to poop before or since. Asterisk. Imagine spending your whole career kneeling in some holy courtyard thinking. Asterisk. Yes, this is a spiritually significant turd. I must treat it with dignity. Asterisk. These were people who probably woke up each morning and whispered, "Maybe today the gods will smite me." Just a little. Asterisk. And the best part? Sometimes the droppings were used in rituals. I know, beautiful, magical, sanitary. Asterisk. But let's float gently onward. 2. The embalming assistants, the ones who got the worst tasks. Asterisk. When you think of mummification, you probably imagine high-ranking priest scientists doing their mysterious thing with incense smoke and linen wraps. You're wrong. Well, partially. Asterisk. There was a lead embalmer, the master of mysteries, which sounds like a magician who only performs for funerals. But below him were a chain of assistants whose career could be described as asterisk. Here, hold this organ. Asterisk. These were the workers tasked with removing the squishy parts. The lungs, the liver, the stomach, the brain, which, by the way, as you may know, was pulled out through the nose with a hook. Asterisk. But guess who actually did the hooking? Not the master. Nope, it was the intern. Asterisk. Imagine being the embalming intern on your first day. Asterisk. Here's a sharp tool. That hole in the nose? Go fishing. Asterisk. And because history can never resist making things worse, sometimes the families of the deceased would angrily throw stones at embalmers for touching the body, even though they specifically hired them. Asterisk. So not only was the job unpleasant, it also came with occasional rocks. we're going to ease away from that image, like a calm boat drifting down the Nile, far away from floating organs. 3. Ancient Egyptian tax collectors. Because everyone hated them asterisk, technically, this wasn't a dirty job, it was just a hated one, but hated in a calm, slow-burn way. Asterisk tax collectors were often scribes who wandered from farm to farm with a measuring cord, calculating how much grain each farmer owed. And farmers, being human, tried every trick in the ancient playbook to avoid paying asterisk fake fields, hidden granaries. Oh no, the Nile was so mean this year. Asterisk the tax collector's job was to smile, nod, and say, yeah, that's crazy. Anyway, pay up. Asterisk they also sometimes had assistants who beat drums to announce their arrival. Yes, imagine how much people loved that sound. Asterisk nothing says good morning like a tax drum. Asterisk, but let's glide onward to another civilization. Asterisk one that gave the world philosophy, the Olympics, and more questionable jobs. We're going to ancient Greece. Asterisk Greece, democracy, drama, and deeply unpleasant careers. Asterisk. People tend to imagine ancient Greece as a land full of toga-wearing intellectuals arguing about the meaning of life while sculpting beautiful marble statues. Asterisk. But behind all that, asterisk a bunch of people doing horrible, necessary jobs. Let's start with the one that probably smelled the worst. Asterisk 4. The armpit cleaners of the gymnasiums. Asterisk. Because in ancient Greece, men exercised in the nude. Asterisk, and not casually nude, confidently nude. A full commitment. Asterisk, to stay beautiful and glistening, athletes rubbed themselves in oil. That oil mixed with sweat, dust, and whatever else was floating around the air at the time. Asterisk, and when athletes finished, someone had to scrape all that off. Enter the Strigil servant. Their entire job was to run a curved metal tool down a stranger's oily, sweaty, naked body. All day. Every day. Imagine trying to go home after that. So, honey, how was work? Asterisk. Don't talk to me. But this job was somehow still better than the one coming up next. Asterisk. 5. The human alarm clocks. A knockers up of ancient Greece. Asterisk before mechanical clocks existed. Someone, somewhere, had to wake people up for their jobs. Asterisk in some Greek cities, this duty fell to low-ranking servants who walked around before dawn knocking on doors, right when everyone least wanted to hear noise. These were the original alarm clocks, except you couldn't hit snooze or throw them off a bedside table. Actually, you probably could throw something at them, but then they'd just knock louder. Asterisk. Imagine being woken up every morning by some guy tapping on your door saying, asterisk, it's time for work. Asterisk, and you're like, buddy, I know, but let's glide onward to something calmer. We're drifting to the Roman Empire now, where everything was bigger, messier, and much more bureaucratic. Rome, the empire with the most unwanted jobs. Asterisk. Romans loved two things. 1. Complex systems. 2. Outsourcing unpleasant tasks to people with no rights. Asterisk. Which created quite the job market. Let's begin with the most famously disgusting role in Roman society. Asterisk 6. The foolers, the ancient laundry workers who used human urine. Asterisk. Yes, this is the job you've probably heard rumors about. Asterisk. Yes, it's all true. Roman fullers were basically professional laundry workers. Their secret cleaning ingredient? Urine. Human urine. Collected from public jars placed around the city. People would pee in them. The fullers would collect it, and then they used it to clean clothes because urine contains ammonia. This wasn't a side detail. This was the method. Workers literally stomped on clothes in tubs of urine like some kind of nightmare version of grape crushing. Their job smelled so strong that being downwind of a fuller workshop was considered a health hazard, a moral hazard, and possibly a spiritual one. A Roman poet once described the stench as aggressive, which feels correct, but hey, at least it was honest work. Let's float somewhere slightly less smelly. 7. The Roman bone collectors asterisk. After gladiator fights, hunting games, or just normal life, the Romans ended up with a lot of bones lying around. Asterisk animal bones. Mostly asterisk human bones, occasionally, because Romans weren't great at boundaries. Asterisk enter the bone collectors. Asterisk. These were low-level workers whose job was to gather discarded bones from streets, butcher stalls, amphitheaters, and literal dumps. They then sorted them to sell to glue makers, knife makers, or whoever else needed bone material. Asterisk, their whole day was basically a hunt for leftovers that nobody else wanted to touch. Asterisk, imagine finishing work, washing your hands, and realizing they still smelled faintly skeletal. Not ideal, but we're drifting again, this time to ancient China. China. A long history of people doing things nobody else wanted to do. Asterisk, ancient China had beautiful poetry, incredible craftsmanship, and more bureaucracy than any empire has ever needed. Asterisk, which is how some of history's most unwanted jobs came into being. Asterisk, let's begin with a role that was unpleasant in a spiritual sense. 8. The professional mourning assistants. Asterisk. In some dynasties, wealthy families hired people to cry at funerals, loudly, dramatically. Asterisk, and for hours. Asterisk, these weren't quiet tears. These were theatrical wails, full body sobs, the kind of crying normally only toddlers achieve. Asterisk, the mourners didn't actually know the deceased. Asterisk, they were just employees. Asterisk, imagine practicing your sobbing skills like it's a musical instrument. Asterisk, that wasn't despairing enough. Let's try again. Asterisk, the job required endurance, emotional flexibility, and zero shame. Some mourners were so good at it that they became famous, which is probably not the kind of legacy they hoped for. 9. The toilet pit cleaners. Yes, again, every civilization had them, but ancient China gave theirs special recognition. Asterisk, these workers cleaned out cesspits beneath communal toilets. Asterisk, which required long poles, strong stomachs, and a deep commitment to pretending smell didn't exist. Asterisk, historians even found one worker's skeleton at the bottom of a latrine, meaning he quite literally died on the job. Asterisk, probably by accident, but still, a bad day at work. Let's drift away from that very slowly, maybe holding our breath. 10. The night soil porters. This job lasted for centuries. These were workers who carried buckets of human waste from households to the fields, where it would be used as fertilizer. Some walked miles at night with 2 huge buckets hanging from a pole. the sloshing, asterisk, the smell, asterisk, the constant fear of tripping. This was not a career you bragged about, and because small accidents were frequent, these workers probably had to make peace with the fact that their clothes would never, ever fully recover. All right, let's wash our hands mentally, spiritually, metaphorically, and move on. Asterisk. All right, welcome back. Asterisk, let's settle in again, take a slow breath, and drift gently into another round of very unfortunate career choices made by people who did not have the luxury of LinkedIn, HR departments, or basic dignity. Asterisk, we left off wandering out of ancient China's less glamorous workforce. So now we're just going to float sideways. Back in time, forward in time history is a flat circle, anyway. Tonight we're drifting into Mesopotamia, medieval Europe, the Maya world, and a few other places where humanity decided, you know what? Somebody else can do that. So tuck yourself back in. Let's glide into more forgotten jobs no one wanted. Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization and terrible occupations. Imagine being alive in ancient Mesopotamia. The rivers are flooding, the kings are shouting, the gods demand constant attention. And you probably have mud in places that mud should not be, asterisk. But the real charm of Mesopotamian daily life? The jobs. Let's start with one that sets the tone beautifully. 11. The temple sweepers of Uruk asterisk temples in Mesopotamia were giant complexes full of priests, offerings, animals, incense, and of course dust. Mountains of dust, a never-ending fountain of gritty, beige despair. Asterisk, some workers spent their entire lives sweeping temple courtyards. Asterisk, not decorating, not managing offerings, just sweeping dust. Every single day. Asterisk, they used long palm brooms, and as soon as they finished one corner, the wind kindly unswept it for them. Imagine dedicating your life to a job that nature undoes every hour. Honestly, it's almost poetic. Almost. Let's float to another one. 12. The official beer tasters. A dream job. Kind of Mesopotamians loved beer. Everyone drank it. Kings, farmers, priests. Random people who probably shouldn't have been drinking on the job, but did anyway. Asterisk, to ensure beer quality, cities employed official tasters. Asterisk sounds amazing, right? A government job drinking beer? Asterisk, except ancient beer was cloudy, thick, sometimes chunky. Asterisk, it was fermented with bread, bits, sometimes floating bugs, sometimes things that historians politely describe as organic mysteries. Asterisk, the taster's job was to make sure no one died after drinking it. Asterisk, which meant they had to risk dying first. Not ideal, still. Better than what's coming next. -13. The clay tablet recycler's asterisk writing in Mesopotamia wasn't like scribbling on paper. Asterisk clay tablets had to be molded, baked, dried, and reused. Asterisk, and who did the reusing? Asterisk, low-level workers who took old, unwanted tablets and erased them with water and bare hands. Asterisk, yes, someone's entire job was turning ancient homework back into mud. Asterisk, their daily life was basically. Asterisk, today we're erasing tax records. Asterisk, tomorrow, the king's grocery list. Asterisk, Wednesday, some poor student's 12-hour writing practice. Asterisk imagine being the last human to touch a tablet before it becomes mud. Again, asterisk there's something sad and sleepy about. That fits the mood tonight. Let's glide on. The Maya world, beautiful cities. Rough jobs asterisk. Ancient Maya cities were busy, advanced places with astronomy, mathematics, stone pyramids, and unfortunately, jobs that belonged in the absolutely no thanks category. We'll start easy. Asterisk 14. The scribe assistants and end ink grinders. Being a Maya scribe was an elite job, but being the assistant, that was the unpaid internship of the ancient world. Your tasks included asterisk grinding charcoal or plant dyes for hours, mixing inks in humid weather, fetching water, and carefully holding delicate manuscripts like a human bookshelf. If a scribe sneezed on a codex, guess who cleaned it? You did. If the ink consistency wasn't perfect, asterisk, guess whose fault it was? Yours. Assistants probably dreamed of one thing, one day being promoted to a scribe, only to discover scribes worked 18-hour days writing in microscopic glyphs. Truly inspirational. Asterisk 15. The lime mixture workers, otherwise known as the people who breathed rocks. Maya architecture used plaster made from lime. To produce it, limestone had to be burned in huge kilns. Asterisk, who worked the kilns? Not the artisans, not the architects. No, the job went to low-level workers who inhaled lime dust all day, hauled rocks in the heat, and stirred mixtures next to blistering ovens. Their lungs probably lasted as long as a clay pot dropped from a pyramid. Asterisk, let's drift away from that heat and into the Middle Ages. Medieval Europe. 1,000 years of terrible employment. Asterisk, Europe during the Middle Ages was a great place if you enjoyed famine, war, plague, illiteracy, poor wages, and being judged by a monk for everything you did. Asterisk, but perhaps the worst part, the jobs. Let's start gentle, with something only moderately soul-crushing. 16. The king's groom of the stool. Asterisk. Yes, it's exactly what it sounds like. Asterisk, this was a royal servant in charge of assisting the king with bathroom business. Literally full assistance. Front row seating. But here's the kicker. It was considered a high-status job. Why? Because you got private conversations with the king while holding a bowl. Imagine introducing yourself. Oh, I work closely with His Majesty. Asterisk, just not too closely. Please. Asterisk, the job came with fancy clothes, good pay, and absolutely no dignity. Let's wipe that image away slowly and move to the next unpleasant career. Asterisk 17. The plague pit diggers. Asterisk, the Middle Ages had plagues. Many plagues. More plagues than anyone asked for. Asterisk, and when people died in huge numbers, someone had to dig the mass graves. Enter the plague pit workers. They dug enormous trenches, often while sick people coughed nearby. Asterisk, or on them, or directly into their souls. The workers used long poles to move bodies from carts to pits without touching them. Asterisk, did it help? Probably not. Their life expectancy was somewhere between short and why are you still here? Asterisk, onward we float. 18. Medieval leech collectors. Asterisk, doctors in the Middle Ages believed leeches cured everything from headaches to bad vibes. Asterisk, so leech collectors traveled through swamps, ponds, and rivers, letting leeches latch onto their legs so they could harvest them. Asterisk, their job description was basically 1. Stand in water. 2. Sacrifice your blood to the leech gods. Asterisk. 3. Pry off dozens of slimy parasites. Asterisk 4. Repeat tomorrow. Asterisk. The collectors often fainted from blood loss. Asterisk. Which is, slightly inconvenient. Let's gently step out of the swamp now. Asterisk 19. The Castlegong farmers. Yes. The job that ensured medieval castles did not turn into methane-filled. Disasters. Asterisk Gong farmers cleaned out cesspits beneath castle latrines. Asterisk these pits could be 20 feet deep, filled with decades of history. Asterisk, they worked at night because the smell was so overpowering that daytime workers complained. Their clothes were never the same again. Their hair was never the same again. Asterisk, honestly, their personal identity was probably never the same again. Asterisk, but hey, they were paid well. Asterisk, because nobody else would do it. Let's drift towards something less smelly. Asterisk Islamic Golden Age, genius scholars, and unfortunate laborers. The Islamic Golden Age was a time of incredible advancement. Math, science, medicine, astronomy, humanity made giant leaps. Asterisk, but behind every genius were dozens of invisible workers doing the tasks nobody wanted. Let's meet a few of them. Asterisk 20. The book-copying apprentices asterisk libraries in Baghdad, Cordoba, and Cairo were filled with books, literally millions of them. Copying a book by hand was a high-skilled job reserved for master scribes. Asterisk, but their apprentices? They did the prep work, stretching parchment, sanding pages smooth, mixing inks, asterisk trimming quills, and copying page numbers over and over until their wrist dissolved into sadness. Dream job? Not quite, but at least it smelled better than lime kilns and cesspits. 21. The human ceiling supports in construction asterisk and large building projects. Workers sometimes had to stand perfectly, still holding support beams in place for hours while mortar dried. Asterisk. Yes, imagine your entire job being a human prop. Asterisk. You stand there, motionless, silent, asterisk, while everyone else does the actual building. Asterisk, if you moved, the ceiling might collapse. Asterisk, if you sneezed, the foreman probably screamed at you. This was not a relaxing workplace. Let's move to the final culture of this part 1 full of spices, trade, and, unfortunately, extremely hazardous jobs. Ancient India, beauty, wealth, and jobs nobody wanted asterisk. Ancient India had thriving cities, complex guilds, and impressive architecture. It also had some jobs that even the bravest soul would decline. Gently now. Let's glide into the first one. -22. The indigo vat workers asterisk. Indigo. Dye was valuable, beautiful, economically important. Asterisk, but the vats used to produce it. Asterisk, they smelled like a mix of rotting plants, ammonia, swamps, and despair. Asterisk workers stood in deep dye pits, stirring the mixture with long poles, inhaling fumes that could knock out a small elephant. Asterisk, their skin turned blue for weeks. Asterisk villagers sometimes avoided them because they looked like tired, chemically saturated smurfs, but at least the colors were pretty. Asterisk 23. The rat catchers of ancient cities. Urban centers like Pataliputra had rats. A lot of rats, asterisk. Professional rat catchers used cages, nets, or if they were brave, bare hands to catch them. Sometimes for population control, sometimes because rat parts were used in certain medicines. Asterisk, their job was dangerous, smelly, and involved lots of squeaking. Asterisk, the upside? Free rats. The downside? Everything else. 24. The cremation ground assistants in Vedic and later periods. Families performed cremations on riverbanks or dedicated grounds. Asterisk, but not every task was done by family. Asterisk assistants arranged wood piles, cleaned ashes, maintained fires, collected remnants, and kept the area organized. Asterisk, it was steady work, but emotionally heavy. Imagine spending your life helping at funerary pyres. Quiet, sad. Routine, asterisk, the kind of job where you learn to stare into flames and think. Asterisk, maybe I should open a bakery instead. Welcome back. Asterisk, let's ease right into part 3 like we're sliding into a lukewarm bath that's been sitting for a bit too long, but we're too tired to heat it up again. By now you've probably realized something comforting about humanity. No matter when or where people lived, someone always had to do the jobs nobody else wanted. Asterisk, and tonight we're floating into even more of those forgotten careers. No rush, just a soft drift through dusty temples, noisy workshops, and questionable-smelling alleyways. Asterisk, let's start this round somewhere that loved precision, discipline, and bad career choices. Ancient Japan. Hyper-order, high craftsmanship, low-desired jobs. Asterisk, Japan has always been known for beauty and detail. Beautiful poetry, beautiful pottery, beautiful handwriting that takes a lifetime to master. Asterisk, but unsurprisingly, there were also jobs that were less artistic. We'll ease into our first one. Asterisk 25. The katana polisher's apprentices. Everyone admires a samurai sword. Beautiful curve, mirror shine, deadly craftsmanship. Asterisk, what people forget is that polishing a sword was an art requiring weeks of slow, precise abrasion. Asterisk, but what did the apprentice do? Everything except the artistic part. Grinding stones by hand, cleaning, metal filings, applying oils, sweeping the workshop, holding blades for hours at awkward angles. Asterisk, getting yelled at if they breathed too loudly. Near a nearly finished sword. Asterisk, their whole job was to make sure they didn't ruin something extremely sharp and extremely expensive. Asterisk, it was stressful, quiet, and probably involved a lot of internal screaming. Let's float on word. Asterisk 26. The night watch drummers. Asterisk, cities like Edo had nighttime patrols whose job was to alert citizens to fires, thieves, or suspicious behavior. The drummers were required to gently tap wooden clappers as they walked through the streets. Tap, 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 all night. Imagine doing that while the entire city slept. Asterisk, cold air, dark alleys, the occasional stray cat giving you side-eye. Asterisk, and if the drummer ever fell asleep on the job, well, the fires definitely didn't. So not exactly a relaxing career. On we drift. Asterisk 27. The daimyo garden sludge collectors. Asterisk, Japanese gardens were meticulously maintained perfect ponds. Perfect sand, perfect rocks placed in perfect spiritual positions. Asterisk, but ponds? They accumulate sludge. Someone had to go waist deep into those elegant pools and scoop out mud, algae, fish droppings, fallen leaves, and whatever else had accumulated. Imagine spending your day cleaning the underbelly of a serene landscape. Zen? Not quite. Let's quietly move on. The Inca Empire, majestic cities, difficult jobs. We're floating now to the Andes, where perfectly cut stones and high-altitude cities created some truly memorable workplaces. Let's ease into the first one. 28. The Quipu Knot Tier Trainees. Inca administrators used quipus, long cords with knots, to record taxes, census data, and other admin details. The master quipu makers were brilliant, skilled, and essential. The trainees? They tied practice knots. All day, every day. And when they messed up, because they always messed up, they had to untie hundreds of tiny knots without breaking a single cord. Imagine your boss handing you a spaghetti bowl of tangles and saying, yes, fix this, quietly. Not thrilling. Let's glide further. -29. The alpaca waist dayers, Andean textiles were gorgeous bright reds, deep purples, vivid blues. But some dyes came from sources that were, let's call them unconventional. One of them was mordant, made from fermented animal waste, which had to be collected and stirred, and maintained at the right consistency. Someone had to stand there with a stick mixing this bubbling, fragrant brew while trying not to think too hard about their life choices. Beautiful fabrics. Questionable process. Let's drift away from the smell. 30. The high-altitude messengers, who ran until they passed out. The Inca used relay runners, the chasqui, to deliver messages across the empire. It sounds heroic, and it kind of was. But also exhausting. Chasqui ran up mountains, down mountains, across cliffs, through thin air, while carrying messages that sometimes were just, the empire needs more potatoes. When they collapsed, another runner took over. Not the safest job. Not the calmest job. Definitely not the job you'd want if you enjoyed breathing. Let's gently move on. Ancient North Africa. Caravans, crafts, and careers nobody wanted. Now we drift across deserts and ancient oases to jobs that were somehow both hot and terrible. No hurry. -31. The salt mine laborers, the Sahara's salt mines like those in ancient Mali and Tagaza were legendary. But working there? Rough. Salt dust gets into your skin, your eyes, your mouth, your soul. Workers spent long hours hacking blocks of salt, carrying them onto camels, and avoiding collapse from heat stroke. Salt was valuable. The workers were less valued. Let's move to something calmer, but only slightly. -32. The Oasis Canal Cleaners. Ancient oasis towns used underground irrigation channels called fogaras. These tunnels needed constant clearing of silt and debris. Who cleared them? Small workers who crawled inside the narrow tunnels, sometimes lying flat, pulling mud out bucket by bucket. If you were tall, you could not apply. If you were claustrophobic, you simply suffered. Imagine inching through a damp tunnel, thinking, yes, this is my life now. Deep breath. Let's drift out of the tunnel. The Viking world. Longboats, mead. and jobs nobody fought for. People love the image of Vikings. Tall, strong, adventurous. Asterisk. But beneath that heroic branding were people doing deeply unheroic tasks. Asterisk sleepily. Let's meet a few. 33. The Barnacle Scrapers. Asterisk. Viking ships traveled long distances. Barnacles stuck to the hulls like clingy X's. Workers had to pull ships onto shore and scrape barnacles off with metal tools. Asterisk hours and hours. Of scraping, cursing, scraping, occasionally getting pinched by something that definitely did not belong there. Asterisk. The job was wet, cold, and smelled like low-tide disappointment. Let's glide on. Asterisk 34. The mead barrel cleaners. Asterisk Vikings drank a lot of mead. Which meant a lot of sticky barrels. Some unlucky soul had to crawl inside barrels with claws and salt water, scrubbing out fermented honey residue. Asterisk, the smell stayed with them forever, possibly even into the afterlife. Onward we float. -35. The Thrall Smokehouse attendants. Asterisk Vikings preserved fish and meat in smokehouse. Stot. Asterisk THRALLLC. Enslaved workers were often assigned to maintain fires all day in cramped, smoky rooms. Asterisk. Imagine your entire day being smoke, fish, more smoke, more fish, coughing, and zero sunlight. The opposite of glamorous. Let's gently sail away. Ancient Persia. Beauty, order, and rough-side jobs. Asterisk. The Persian empires were vast, elegant, and administratively impressive. But even they needed people to do the undesirable work. And those jobs still slept on today. Asterisk 36. The Royal Road Dust Sweepers. Asterisk. The Royal Road was famous, stretching across the empire. But someone had to sweep it, clean it, keep it clear of animal donations, and make sure travelers didn't complain. Road sweepers often worked at dawn, clearing miles of dusty ground before officials passed through. Asterisk. It was quiet, boring, and endless. Let's move on. Asterisk 37. The perfume oven attendants. Persian fragrances were legendary, but making them required heating resins and flowers in clay ovens for days. Asterisk. The attendants had to manage heat, avoid burns. Asterisk. Stir. Boiling resin, inhale fumes so strong they probably tasted colors. It wasn't deadly. Asterisk. Just unpleasant in a slow, immersive way. Perfect for our sleepy journey. Asterisk 38. The Palace Water Carrier Boys. Asterisk. Large palaces needed someone to carry water from wells and cisterns to kitchens, baths, and fountains, all day, up and down stairs. Some boys carried giant clay jars that sloshed with every step. If they spilled, they went back and back and back again. A cardio workout nobody asked for. Let's glide onward. Asterisk. The Aboriginal Australian world. Sacred lands and tough duties. Asterisk. Indigenous. Australian groups had complex systems of knowledge, land care, and ritual responsibilities. Asterisk. And some tasks, while important, were deeply challenging. We'll explore one quietly. Asterisk 39. The Firestick Farmers' Apprentices. Asterisk. Firestick farming involved using controlled burns to manage land, promote plant growth, and help animals thrive. Apprentices learned to handle fire safely, but learning involved gathering fuel, hauling scorched debris, inhaling smoke, getting lightly toasted, daily being yelled at if they burned the wrong patch. It was sacred work, but exhausting for a trainee. Let's drift on. Asterisk ancient Southeast Asia. Kingdoms, temples, and unwanted jobs. Asterisk places like Angkor, Majapahit, and Pagan had massive structures in bustling cities. Asterisk, which meant less glamorous work behind the scenes. Asterisk gently now. 40. The temple muck pullers of Angkor. Asterisk, Angkor Wat's moats and reservoirs were engineering marvels. Asterisk, but they filled with muck-thick, heavy, swamp-like mud. Asterisk workers had to wade in and pull it out, basket by basket. Hot weather. Mosquitoes. Asterisk, the occasional snake who also did not want to be there. Not a peaceful job. Let's move on. 41. The bronze casting bellows workers. Casting bronze required hot furnaces. Very hot. Young workers pumped giant bellows for hours to keep the fire steady. Imagine. Intense heat burning arms. Asterisk constant. Sweat enough smoke to season your lungs and absolutely no recognition afterward. Asterisk a perfect place to pause. All right, let's drift back into our soft, low-energy journey through history's most unwanted resumes. Asterisk, you can keep your eyes half closed for this part. Nothing here will wake you up. Asterisk, in fact, it might make you question why anyone in ancient civilizations ever showed up for work at all. Asterisk, let's float into our next batch of reluctantly employed humans. The ancient Egyptian professional mourner, the person paid to cry on command. Asterisk, so, imagine this, you're living in ancient Egypt. The sun is hot, the Nile is doing its usual Nile thing, and your neighbor is loudly grinding grain at 5 in the morning again. Asterisk, and you think, I should get a job, but what's available? Scribe. No. Requires literacy and a spine strong enough to sit upright all day. Asterisk farmer. No thanks. Asterisk priest. Only if your uncle already works there. Asterisk soldier. Hard pass. Asterisk, so what's left? Asterisk a job where you show up to funerals and cry dramatically for people you've never met. Meet the professional mourner. These people were basically ancient emotional freelancers. They were hired to weep loudly, throw dust on their heads, beat their chests, and wail like the deceased was their favorite cousin. It wasn't optional either. Elite families needed mourners. The louder the crying, the more important the dead person seemed. It was ancient Egypt's version of likes on a funeral. Asterisk, and because the Egyptians loved theatrical symbolism, some mourners even dressed as the goddesses Isis and Nephthys, performing a ritualized wailing performance that could last for hours. Asterisk, imagine being stuck in 40 degrees Celsius heat, covered in sand and tears that aren't even yours. Asterisk, just another shift, I guess. Let's drift over to ancient China. Asterisk, where we meet a job so prestigious nobody actually wanted it. The imperial eunuch. Promotion with several drawbacks. Asterisk, in imperial China, becoming a eunuch could, theoretically, give you immense power. Asterisk, you could rise from a random orphaned teenager to the emperor's most trusted advisor. Asterisk, you could control access to the throne, manage palaces, influence politics. Asterisk, but you had to give up a very important part of your body first. Asterisk, it's the kind of job where the interview process was basically, asterisk, are you willing to never have children? Permanently alter your anatomy and live in a palace full of suspicious rivals? And you answered, sure, I guess. Some eunuchs did gain enormous wealth. Others were blamed for everything that went wrong in the empire, from corruption to droughts to the emperor having a bad hair day. Asterisk. Because why blame natural causes when you can blame the guy who handles the laundry? Asterisk. To make it worse, eunuchs were often at the mercy of palace politics. New emperors would come in and purge the old staff. Asterisk. You could spend decades serving loyally, only to have a 14-year-old emperor suddenly decide you're suspicious and order your execution. Not ideal. Still, people lined up for the job because poverty gives you very creative ideas about career paths. Now we wander over to ancient Rome, where things get, well, grosser. The foolers. People who cleaned clothes using P***. Yes, you read that correctly. Asterisk. In ancient Rome, laundry workers known as phallones cleaned clothing using human urine. Asterisk. Why? Because urine contains ammonia, and ammonia is great for cleaning wool. It's basically ancient bleach, except, you know, from people. Rome set up public urinals specifically to collect it. Foolers would stomp on the clothes inside tubs of diluted pee, like a very cursed version of winemaking. Asterisk. Imagine going to work every day knowing your job title is essentially professional pee handler. Asterisk. And because Roman society was nothing if not dramatic, foolers had to deal with constant accusations of ruining garments, damaging dyes, or making your toga smell like the wrong blend of urine. Asterisk. Even Roman emperors got involved. Asterisk. Vespasian famously taxed public urine collection because he looked at bodily fluids and thought, asterisk, you know what this needs? Revenue. And thus he invented the historical equivalent of a bathroom tax. Asterisk. Now let's drift gently into a cooler climate. Ancient Greece, land of philosophy, art, and jobs that no one talked about because they were deeply unpleasant. The Scythian archer police? We don't know your language, but you're under arrest. Asterisk. Athens was proud of its democracy, philosophy, and culture. Asterisk. But when it came to law enforcement, they avoided doing it themselves. Asterisk. Instead, they hired foreign slaves, often Scythians, as public police. Asterisk. It makes for a deeply ironic situation. The birthplace of democracy outsourced its policing. Asterisk. To people who didn't speak Greek fluently. Asterisk. And were often given bows but not necessarily arrows. Asterisk. Their job? Asterisk. Keep order in markets, escort prisoners, break up arguments, drag drunk citizens home, and gently but firmly poke misbehaving people with sticks. Asterisk. Most Athenians looked down on them, despite the fact that the Scythians were doing all the jobs Athenians absolutely did not want. Asterisk. If you were a Scythian archer, your workday probably went something like this. Asterisk. Get yelled at by a citizen who thinks you're beneath him. Asterisk. Get yelled at by another citizen who wants you to. Arrest the first one. Asterisk. Try to figure out what anyone is saying. Asterisk. Decide both are annoying and escort them both to the magistrate. Asterisk. A thankless job in a city full of very confident men who loved arguing about everything. Let's float a little further, back into the hot and gritty world of Mesopotamia. Asterisk. Where someone somewhere had to take care of the city's waste. The Babylonian night soil collector. The person in charge of human waste. Ancient cities were smelly, like impressively smelly. Asterisk. And someone had to deal with all the waste left in streets. pits and canal systems, asterisk, enter the night soil. Collectors, asterisk, they worked at night because, surprise, no one wanted to see them working in broad daylight. Their job was to collect human waste, asterisk, transport it outside the city, dump it, or reuse it as fertilizer. And if you're wondering whether ancient records mention these people, the answer is extremely rarely, asterisk, probably because scribes didn't want to spend their precious clay tablets documenting guy who removes poop, asterisk, but without them, cities would have been unlivable, asterisk. Imagine spending your nights carrying baskets of waste through narrow alleys while stray dogs follow you like you're delivering gourmet treats. Asterisk, it's safe to say this was not a dream job. And from there, let's drift into something slightly more mystical. The Oracle maintenance staff, the people behind the prophecies, asterisk, everyone remembers the high-profile oracles like the Priestess of Delphi, asterisk, but nobody remembers the staff whose job was to keep everything running, asterisk, behind every dramatic prophecy was a team of underpaid assistants who, asterisk, cleaned the shrine, asterisk, burned the incense, prepared the laurel leaves, managed temple. Visitors stopped drunk pilgrims from falling into sacred springs and probably fetched the Pythia's snacks, asterisk. It's kind of like being a roadie for a rock star, except the rock star is inhaling fumes and speaking cryptically about your future. Asterisk, imagine being the poor assistant trying to keep a straight face while someone asks, asterisk, will I conquer Asia? And the Pythia mutters something like, a great empire will fall. And you're in the corner thinking, please don't blame me if it's yours. Asterisk, a job full of responsibility, zero credit, and more incense inhalation than a modern yoga retreat. We can stay in the mystical world a bit longer. Asterisk, because ancient cultures had many jobs involving spirits, curses, or rituals, but some were less glamorous than others. Asterisk, the ancient curse tablet maker, the petty complaint writer of antiquity, asterisk, people in Greece and Rome loved cursing each other, asterisk, your business rival insulted you. Curse tablet, asterisk, your neighbor's donkey pooped in your courtyard. Curse tablet, asterisk, your ex looked too happy after the breakup. Curse tablet, and someone had to make them. Enter the professional scribe of curses, whose entire job involved inscribing thin sheets of lead with angry messages like, asterisk, may Hermes tie the tongue of Theodorus, who cheated me in dice. Asterisk, these workers sat for hours carving out names, offenses, instructions for God's petty complaints that sound like ancient Yelp reviews, asterisk. Then they folded the tablet, pierced it with a nail, and handed it off for burial in a well, cemetery, or shrine. Asterisk, imagine spending your day writing complaints for strangers while wondering why everyone in your city has so much emotional energy. Asterisk, it was an introvert's nightmare, but a profitable business. Asterisk. All right, let's stretch, exhale slowly, and drift right back into the warm, mildly disappointing glow of ancient employment. Asterisk, nothing exciting, nothing dramatic, just more jobs that made people in the past wake up every morning and think, asterisk, I should have been a fisherman. But here we are, floating deeper into civilizations that kept inventing terrible job descriptions, simply because someone had to do them. Asterisk, let's glide onward. The Roman aqueduct cleaner. Please don't fall in, asterisk. Aqueducts were one of Rome's proudest achievements. They carried clean water for miles. They powered fountains, baths, wealthy estates, but occasionally things got stuck inside them, and someone had to go in. Asterisk, meet the equerry, the maintenance crew for Rome's water system. Their job was basically crawl through narrow, dark channels, asterisk, remove debris like leaves, sand, dead animals, patch leaks, try very hard not to drown, asterisk, and deal with whatever mysterious sludge had formed since the last cleaning, asterisk. Imagine a job that combined spelunking, plumbing, and the constant fear that someone might open the water flow upstream without warning. Asterisk, for the Romans, clean water meant status. Asterisk, for the aqueduct cleaner, it meant grabbing a small oil lamp, lowering yourself into a damp stone tunnel, and hoping the rats were friendly that day. Asterisk, just another shift under the empire. Let's drift over to the ancient Maya. Asterisk, where, yes, another unwanted job waited under the tropical sun. The ball court maintenance worker, the guy who cleaned after ritual sports, asterisk. The Maya played a sacred ball game called pits, part sport, part ritual, part life or death symbolism. Asterisk, the courts were huge stone structures, perfectly engineered for bouncing a heavy rubber ball. Asterisk, but after the ceremonies, the court didn't clean itself. Enter the ball court maintenance worker. Asterisk, this was the person responsible for clearing debris, scrubbing blood or offerings from the court, asterisk, filling cracks in the plaster, keeping the stones smooth, and resetting ritual objects, asterisk. Imagine being the person sweeping up after a deeply spiritual ceremony while priests chant nearby and nobles discuss cosmic balance. Asterisk, you're over here thinking, asterisk, cosmic balance is great, but can someone help carry this giant rubber ball? Asterisk, a job essential to cultural tradition, and absolutely not something anyone bragged about. Now let's wander into ancient Persia. Asterisk, and no, we're not talking about royal courts filled with jewels and poetry. Asterisk, we're heading out to the less glamorous side of the empire, the royal road marker, the human traffic cone of the Achaemenid Empire. Asterisk, Persia was famous for its massive, well-maintained road system. Messengers could travel hundreds of kilometers in just a few days. Merchants moved across the empire with unprecedented speed. Asterisk, but the roads needed markers, posts, stones, sometimes even living workers stationed at intervals to help travelers. Asterisk, yes, actual humans acting as waypoints. Asterisk, their responsibilities included, asterisk, staying at their designated marker post, guiding messengers, assisting caravans, asterisk, keeping fires lit for, signaling, asterisk, preventing travelers from wandering into deserts, boredom, mostly boredom, asterisk, imagine standing under a burning sun, waiting for the next traveler to ask where the nearest rest station was, even though the Persian equivalent of a rest station was usually a camp with water and maybe a goat. Asterisk, a job vital to imperial communication, but deeply unexciting. Now let's drift to ancient India, where someone had to handle the aftermath of religious sacrifices. Asterisk, temple ash collectors, holy residue specialist. Asterisk, in many Indian temples, offerings were burned, Grains, butter, aromatic woods, sometimes more elaborate items, asterisk, after everything finished burning, you were left with ash, a lot of ash, and temples needed someone to gather it, store it, dispose of it, or distribute it for rituals. Asterisk, the ash collector had to sweep carefully to preserve ritual purity, handle hot embers, avoid inhaling too much smoke, sort sacred ash from regular debris, asterisk, stored in clay or bronze containers, asterisk, all while staying respectful, quiet, and very, very patient. Asterisk, it was a spiritually significant job. Yes. Asterisk, but glamorous? Not exactly. You didn't see many kids saying, asterisk, when I grow up I want to be head of sacred ash management. Let's float toward ancient Britain, well before the Romans arrived, where someone had to work closely with wool and water in ways nobody envied. Asterisk, Iron Age wool dyers, the people permanently stained by their profession, asterisk. Wool dyeing was essential. Everyone needed clothing. Clothing needed color. Asterisk, color came from plants, minerals, and sometimes crushed insects. So dye workers spent their days boiling giant vats of plant matter, asterisk, stirring thick, bubbling dye baths, handling foul-smelling mordants, getting permanently stained hands, asterisk, standing over smoke and steam for hours. Their clothes smelled like wet sheep. Their hands were purple, yellow, or red, asterisk. Their work huts looked like something out of a Druid-themed chemistry class, asterisk. They provided beautiful colors to society and lived with the permanent scent of boiling woad. Asterisk, back to the Mediterranean we go, because the next job was both essential and socially awkward. Asterisk, the ancient Greek olive oil tester, professional sip and spit. But with more pressure, olive oil was more than food, was fuel for lamps, base for perfumes, a religious offering, an athletic body rub, a medicinal ingredient, so quality mattered. Asterisk, which meant someone had the job of tasting, smelling, and examining oil to check for mold, rot, pests, bad storage, rancid notes. Basically, they were sommeliers, except instead of wine, they tasted lamp fuel. Imagine swirling a cup of oil, taking a careful sniff, and announcing, asterisk, yes, strong notes of old amphora and slightly sweaty goat. Not quite the glamorous life, asterisk. Now let's drift into the ancient Middle East again, with a job that even scribes tried to pretend didn't exist. Asterisk, the Ostrakhan recyclers, the people who reused broken pottery as notepads, asterisk. Writing materials weren't cheap, asterisk, but broken pottery? Very cheap. So people used shards as scratch paper, called ostraka, asterisk. But someone had to clean, organize, and smooth those broken bits so scribes could write on them. The recyclers sorted piles of broken pots, washed them shaved edges to avoid cuts, asterisk, polished. The writing surface, asterisk, delivered them to scribes. Asterisk, imagine standing in a dusty courtyard, sorting tiny ceramic fragments while nobles argue philosophy. Nearby, you're over here thinking, glad Plato isn't the one picking pottery shards out of his sandals. And now, drifting quietly into ancient Japan, the imperial court smell tester. Please tell us if the palace stinks. Asterisk, cleanliness and scent were incredibly important in classical Japanese courts. Asterisk, members of the aristocracy judged each other by the fragrance of their clothing, hair, and writing paper. Asterisk, so someone had to make sure everything smelled acceptable. Enter the smell tester. Their job was to detect mold in clothing, sniff unwanted smoke or incense combinations, asterisk, ensure perfumes were properly balanced, asterisk, check that storage chest didn't develop odors, asterisk, report any subtle scent disasters, asterisk, this was extremely delicate work, asterisk, one wrong sniff and you were responsible for a noble showing up smelling like damp bamboo, asterisk, a life of careful breathing. Settle back again, asterisk, slow breath in, asterisk, slow breath out, asterisk, and let's glide deeper into the soft, beige misery of ancient labor. No excitement, no heroism, asterisk, just more jobs that made ancient workers reconsider all their life choices. Asterisk, let's continue drifting. The ancient Egyptian listener of secrets, the tax scribe, everyone feared, asterisk, in pharaonic Egypt. Taxes weren't just numbers, asterisk, they were grain, livestock, beer, linen, asterisk, and occasionally, whatever we say you owe, asterisk, to track all of this. The state employed scribes known as listeners of secrets, a very dramatic title for a very annoying job. Their work was simple. Record what people owed, record what they claimed they owed, asterisk, notice when those two numbers didn't match. Quietly ruin someone's month. Farmers dreaded seeing these scribes approach, asterisk, because the listener of secrets did, in fact, listen to secrets. Who was hiding grain, who bribed the tax collector, asterisk, whose cattle mysteriously died right before inspection, asterisk. Imagine being the guy who walks into a village and instantly gets 30 fake smiles and 40 excuses, asterisk. It was like being an auditor, but with even more passive aggression and lots of papyrus. Let's wander toward ancient Mesopotamia again, asterisk, because why wouldn't history hide more misery there? The ziggurat brick counter. Yes, I counted all 300,000 of them. Ziggurats were huge, massive temple complexes built with millions of baked bricks, but every brick needed counting, tracking, recording, asterisk, and integrating into labor quotas, asterisk. So, someone was hired to literally count bricks all day, asterisk. These workers sat with clay tablets tallying endless rows of 1 brick, 2 brick, asterisk, 3 brick, more brick, still brick, forever brick. Their job involved standing in scorching sun, verifying measurements, asterisk, checking weight, consistency, recording kill loads, monitoring deliveries, asterisk. It was the ancient version of staring at a spreadsheet for 12 hours, except no shade, no coffee, asterisk, no ergonomic chair, asterisk, just dehydration and brick dust in your nose, a deeply uncelebrated profession, asterisk, floating gently to ancient Greece once again, because the Greeks had a talent for giving terrible jobs poetic names, asterisk, the ostrich feather fan bearer, human air conditioner, but make it mythological, asterisk, during feasts, rituals, or ceremonies. Someone had to keep the elite cool. This meant standing behind them, asterisk, waving giant fans made of ostrich feathers, maintaining perfect rhythm, not hitting anyone accidentally, asterisk, and never, ever sighing loudly our basically a human breeze producer. Fan bearers spent hours gently waving fans while aristocrats argued about metaphysics or bragged about their wrestling victories. Asterisk if you got tired? Too bad. If your arms started shaking? Hope no one noticed. If the noble decided he wanted to breeze slightly more to the left? Asterisk adjust immediately or risk a lecture about proper fan aesthetics. At least the feathers were soft. Asterisk, now let us drift into ancient China again, where a very specific and tedious job existed solely because administrators were obsessed with order. Asterisk, the bamboo strip straightener, the person who prepared ancient notebooks. Asterisk, before paper became widespread. Chinese scribes wrote on bamboo strips. Asterisk, but those strips had to be cut, shaved, dried, straightened, and polished. Someone's entire job was prepping them. Asterisk, imagine sitting for hours on end, smoothing bamboo strips one by one, measuring length with obsessive precision, hoping the next bundle doesn't have weird knots in it. You didn't get credit. The scribes got credit. Asterisk, you were just the person making sure their brilliant essay on tax law didn't get written on a crooked piece of bamboo. Asterisk, a silent, thankless, splinter-filled life. Sliding over to ancient Rome again, where we find yet another job that combined legality with boredom. Asterisk, the Forum Herald, the person who yelled. Bureaucracy at crowds. Asterisk, the Herald announced. Court schedules, political decrees, new taxes, lost property notices, rules on grain distribution. Basically, he shouted government paperwork at people who weren't listening. Asterisk, he needed a strong voice, thick skin. Asterisk 0. Pride imagined standing in the Roman sun yelling, trial of Gaius Fabius postponed. Asterisk, grain rations reduced due to shortages. Asterisk, whoever lost a goat near the east wall, please claim it. Asterisk, while half the crowd ignored you, and the other half yelled back that the grain prices were unfair. Asterisk, a job perfect for someone who liked talking at people who don't care. Drifting into ancient India once more, with a job that sounds fancy but was deeply exhausting. Asterisk, the elephant bathing assistant. Yes, they splash. A lot. Elephants were symbols of royalty, majestic, powerful, ceremonial, but they also needed daily baths, scrubbing ear, cleaning foot, washing mud removal, calm, coaxing. Elephant assistants worked waist deep in water, maneuvering around animals that could crush a cart with one foot. Asterisk there? Challenges included getting splashed, getting sneezed on, getting sprayed, staying respectful, staying alive. Imagine spending the whole day gently scrubbing. Enormous. Gray sides while the elephant stares at you like it's judging your technique. A noble creature, a demanding hygiene routine. Let's drift into ancient Japan again. Asterisk, where palace life required constant, hyper-focused attention to tiny details. The court calligraphy paper moistener, professional humidity controller. Asterisk, high-grade calligraphy paper needed to be the perfect texture, not too dry, not too soft, not too brittle. Enter the paper moisturizers. Their job, gently humidify sheets with controlled steam, adjust moisture levels, daily store. Paper in cedar-lined boxes. Asterisk, keep insects away. Asterisk, ensure calligraphers never felt a single rough edge. This was an art form. Also, Incredibly boring. Asterisk. Imagine watching clouds of steam rise for hours while praying no one knocks over the water bowl. Asterisk. If humidity had a job description, this was it. Now drifting back to the Middle East, because ancient desert empires had equally dusty job listings. Asterisk. The caravan night guard, the guy who stayed awake while everyone else slept. Caravan trade was dangerous. Bandits, wildlife rival merchants. Asterisk. Sandstorms. Asterisk. Someone had to stay up at night, patrolling the perimeter, listening for suspicious sounds, and debating whether that rustle was a fox or a very bold thief. Night guards often walked in circles, held torches, fought. Boredom-guarded camels stayed mildly anxious until dawn, while the rest of the caravan snored peacefully. Job that required reliability and a love for long, lonely nights. Settle in again. Asterisk. Let the edges of your thoughts get soft. We're diving even deeper into history's least glamorous job market. A place where career guidance was basically, asterisk, pick whatever hasn't killed someone yet. Asterisk. Let's drift onward. The ancient Egyptian frog collector. Yes, it's exactly what it sounds like. Asterisk. Egypt's irrigation canals were full of frogs. Asterisk. And while most people ignored them, temples and physicians needed frogs for rituals, medicines, ointments, symbolic offerings. Asterisk. So someone had to catch them. Enter the frog collector. Their day involved wading waist deep into muddy canals, grabbing slippery amphibians, trying not to fall, and keeping frogs alive until delivery, getting splashed constantly. Imagine spending all day in wet reeds as frogs jump at your face like tiny, judgmental acrobats. Not dangerous, not glamorous. Asterisk. Just soggy. Drifting toward ancient Greece. Asterisk. Where philosophy was high-minded. Asterisk. And sanitation was very, very not. The chamber pot carrier, the Athenian, who transported human resources. Asterisk. Every household had chamber pots, but not every household wanted to empty them. So poorer laborers were hired to carry full pots through narrow streets to disposal areas outside the walls. Asterisk. Their challenges included balancing sloshing containers, navigating crowds, avoiding spills, ignoring insults, pretending the job wasn't ruining their sense of smell. Imagine walking up a steep Athenian hill holding a pot of someone else's morning regrets while two philosophers debate ethics right next to you. A deeply humbling profession. Asterisk. Onward to ancient Rome again, because Rome never ran out of strange jobs. Asterisk. The fortune whisperer, the person who interpreted chicken behavior. Romans loved divination, especially auspices, interpreting omens from birds. But someone had to maintain the birds. The fortune whisperer fed sacred chickens, observed their pecking habits, reported behaviors to augurs, cleaned cage, kept birds calm. Then an augur would declare something dramatic like, asterisk, the chickens refuse to eat. We must not go to war. Asterisk. Meanwhile, the caretaker's inner voice was saying, asterisk, they didn't eat because Lucius overfed them yesterday. But okay. A job full of responsibility and poultry-based stress. Asterisk. Floating into ancient India again. Asterisk. Where sacred tasks could also be surprisingly tedious. The mantra reciter assistant, the person who repeated long chants softly in the background. Asterisk. Religious ceremonies often required perfect pronunciation. Asterisk. but priests needed backup support, someone to stand nearby murmuring the chant quietly so the officiant didn't mess it up. Kind of like a human teleprompter. Responsibilities: whisper mantras flawlessly, maintain perfect. Rhythm stay invisible. Prevent the priest from blanking mid-ritual, never cough. Imagine hours of whispering under your breath while incense burns your eyes, and everyone pretends you're not there. Asterisk, a job based entirely on memory and humility. Let's drift to ancient China once again, where imperial bureaucracy created roles so specific they sound made up. Asterisk, the lantern registry keeper? Yes, we needed a record of every lantern. Asterisk, in large cities, night lanterns were important. For safety, for markets, for festivals, for official processions, and someone had to track who owned which lantern. Asterisk, what style. It was where it hung, whether it needed repairs. Asterisk, who paid taxes for night lighting. So a bureaucrat sat in an office writing, red silk lantern. Owner, Li Wen. Condition, good. Asterisk, tax paid. Partial. All day. Every day. Asterisk, imagine a ledger filled entirely with descriptions like asterisk, lantern number 2047, wooden frame, minor tier, smells faintly of fish. Asterisk, a job perfect for someone with a high tolerance for tedium. Now let's wander to ancient Persia again, where large palaces meant large messes. Asterisk, the royal carpet beater, dusting deluxe edition. Asterisk, Persian carpets were stunning, intricate, expensive, symbolic. Asterisk, but carpets in massive palaces picked up dust, sand, pollen, crumbs, and whatever noble children dropped on them. The carpet beater's duties: haul carpets outdoors, beat dust out for hours, avoid inhaling clouds of dirt. Asterisk, shake edges, carefully yellowed carpets without wrinkling. Your whole job was making sure a noble never saw a single speck of dust. Asterisk, imagine beating a rug so elaborately woven it probably took 10 years to finish, while telling yourself not to sneeze on it. A strangely athletic job for a court position. Asterisk, let's slide toward ancient Japan once more. Asterisk, with a job that sounds peaceful until you think about the workload. The imperial shoshi paper repairer, professional hole fixer. Asterisk, shoshi. Screens tore easily. Wind, clumsy servants, overexcited children, cats. Asterisk, extremely aggressive breezes. Asterisk. So palaces employed specialists who, asterisk, inspected screens, daily patched small tiers, replaced entire panels, matched paper textures, applied glue perfectly, evenly. Asterisk, this needed patience and precision. Asterisk, imagine crawling along a long hallway, repairing tiny holes one by one, while courtiers glide past as if the screens repair themselves. A quiet, meditative, repetitive life. Asterisk, and now, drifting toward ancient Mesopotamia again. Asterisk, because scribes weren't the only ones writing things down. The clay tablet dryer, the person who watched clay dry. Asterisk, after scribes inscribed documents into wet clay, someone had to carry the tablets to drying racks, turn them carefully. Asterisk, ensure even drying, prevent cracking shoe, away animals. Asterisk, avoid dropping anything. Asterisk, imagine spending your entire day staring at rows of damp rectangles, waiting to become slightly less damp. If boredom were a profession, this was it. Asterisk, now let's glide toward ancient Rome once more, where even entertainment generated truly awful chores. Asterisk the arena sand raker, smoothing the ground after public spectacles. Asterisk after events in the arena, even mild ones, the sand needed leveling. The raker had to drag heavy wooden rakes, asterisk, cover wheel marks, hide footprints, redistribute sand, evenly smooth surface patterns. It required precision. It required patience. It required pretending not to notice whatever unpleasant thing just happened in the sand. Asterisk imagine quietly smoothing out a giant arena floor while thousands of spectators leave the building chatting like nothing happened. A job with a lot of sand and not much glory. Close your eyes again. Asterisk, let your mind drift like dust in an empty hallway. Asterisk, we're heading deeper into the forgotten, the peculiar, the historical jobs no one asked for, but someone still had to do. Let's go. The medieval water threader, the person who watched wells for contamination, asterisk, in medieval towns. Wells were life, but wells could also kill. So some towns employed a water threader, asterisk a person, whose whole job was staring into wells to look for, asterisk dead. Rodents, weird slime, floating straw, suspicious smells, changes. And clarity, asterisk, this wasn't glamorous early science. This was, look into this dark hole and tell us if anything gross is floating. Asterisk, the job involved leaning into cold brick wells, inhaling damp air, asterisk checking early morning, midday, night fishing out anything suspicious. Imagine someone screaming, asterisk Thomas. A frog died in the water again. Fetch your hook. And that was your morning. Asterisk, let's move to ancient Korea, where palace beauty came with surprising maintenance. Asterisk the royal hairpin polisher, maintaining shine. One pin at a time, asterisk Korean courts loved jade. Silver, tortoiseshell, and gold hairpins, asterisk important. Women wore dozens, asterisk, and someone had to keep them. Perfect, asterisk responsibilities. Polishing every pin, daily checking for tiny scratches, wiping sweat marks, arranging them by rank and ceremony, asterisk, never bending the delicate shapes. Asterisk imagine spending hours making sure a single jade pin gleamed at the right angle in the morning sun. Asterisk, a job requiring precision, calm, and a deep emotional bond with tiny objects. Glide to the Aztec Empire, where rituals were intense, but not every job involved blood. Asterisk, the flower gatherer for temples, the marathon. Walker, asterisk, temples needed fresh flowers constantly. Marigold, magnolia, dahlias, orchids, but nearby gardens weren't enough. So gatherers walked kilometers daily, climbing hills and forests with giant baskets, tasks. Find perfect blossoms, asterisk avoid. Insects, avoid thorns, carry kilos of flowers, return before ceremonies. Imagine a job where your boss says, asterisk, bring back the most beautiful flowers you see, asterisk, and if you fail, a priest simply says, asterisk, these are mid. Soul-crushing, asterisk, drift to the Viking world, where even raiders needed accountants. Asterisk, the longhouse tally stick keeper, the Viking who did math all day. Asterisk, someone had to track livestock grain storage, asterisk broken. Tools, debts, fishing quotas, wool shipments. So tally stick keepers spent their days carving notches into wood, asterisk not inspiring. Sagas, not battle stories, just accounting. Imagine a brawny warrior bursting in. We found a sea monster. And you're sitting at a table carving. 2 goats missing. A humble but essential job. Asterisk now drift into ancient Egypt again, where enormous temples created endless chores. Asterisk the papyrus roll re-moistener. Yes, this was real papyrus became brittle over time, so before priests or scribes could unroll old documents, a worker had to gently humidify the papyrus with steam, with damp cloth, with controlled heat without overwetting. One wrong move and the scroll cracked. Asterisk your whole job was responsible. Steaming. Asterisk imagine staring at a priceless 500-year-old document thinking. Asterisk please don't crumble. Please don't crumble. Stress level maximum. Asterisk slide toward medieval Arabia, where scholarship thrived, and so did strange copy tasks. Asterisk the ink dilution specialist, the intern of knowledge. Asterisk manuscript workshops needed ink, but ink was expensive, so an assistant was hired just to dilute thick ink, stir pigments, ensure the right shade. Asterisk test. Strokes on scrap parchment. Asterisk refill. Tiny pots. Imagine a master calligrapher yelling, "This is too watery." Then, "This is too thick." Every 10 minutes, a job requiring patience and perfectly functioning wrists. Travel to ancient Greece again, where theater dominated culture. Asterisk the backdrop weight holder. Human counterweight. Stage backdrops hung on ropes. Wind blew. Asterisk actors ran. Chaos happened. So a strong person was hired to hold the rope, keep the backdrop steady, adjust tension, prevent swinging. Asterisk avoid being pulled upward like a confused kite. Asterisk imagine gripping a rope behind the stage while the audience gasps. Asterisk and your only thought is, asterisk, if I sneeze, this wall might fall over. A job nobody applauded. Asterisk let's drift to ancient Rome again, because Rome never ran out of weird labor. Asterisk the public foot washer, the job nobody envy. Asterisk Rome had public baths. Asterisk but before entering, many people wanted their feet washed, especially elites, so foot washers sat all day by the entrance, washing dusty feet, scrubbing, heels trimming nails, sometimes rinsing, mud keeping water warm. Imagine touching hundreds of feet a day while someone monologues about politics above you. A truly heroic act of patience. Asterisk all right. Asterisk settle back in. Asterisk let your shoulders drop. Asterisk we're drifting again, quietly, into another set of jobs that ancient people performed with almost heroic levels of patience. Asterisk or boredom, mostly boredom. No excitement, no drama, just the soft, soothing hum of historical misery. Here we go. Asterisk the medieval cathedral lamp trimmer, guardian of the eternal flame. Sort of. Asterisk cathedrals glowed with hundreds of oil lamps. They also smoked a lot. Asterisk so the lamp trimmer's job was climb high ladders, trim burnt wicks, refill oil, wipe soot. Asterisk avoid setting their hair on fire. Asterisk repeat every single day. It wasn't holy, it wasn't symbolic. Asterisk it was literally maintaining medieval lighting. Asterisk imagine being halfway up a ladder. Someone drops a candle and you're silently repeating, I am absolutely underpaid for this. Let's float into ancient China, where bureaucracy reached levels both majestic and unnecessarily complicated. Asterisk the imperial seal dryer. Drying ink for the emperor, imperial seals were stamped on documents. But the ink used was thick and slow to dry. Asterisk enter the seal. Dryer. Hold the document gently. Wave a fan, ensure the ink didn't run, check for smudges. Asterisk stand. Perfectly still. Asterisk. You were a human blow dryer for. Paperwork. Asterisk imagine explaining your job to your family. Asterisk. I helped the emperor buy. Waving things at documents. A respected position. For reasons unclear. Now let's slide into the world of the Maya. Asterisk where astronomy was advanced, but stargazing wasn't always poetic. The night sky timekeeper. The sleepless mathematician. Asterisk, someone had to watch the sky every night, without fail. Not the priests, not the nobles. An assigned watcher. Tasks included tracking moon phases, noting odd stars, observing cloud cover, marking shadows. Asterisk staying awake. All night. Imagine sitting on a stone platform at 3 a.m., eyes half closed, thinking, I would kill for a pillow. Ancient science was built on sleep deprivation. Asterisk, let's drift to the Persian Empire, where luxury required surprisingly tedious maintenance. Asterisk, the perfumed cloth keeper, smelling things for royalty. Asterisk, royal rooms draped, cloth soaked in perfumes. Asterisk, they had to be refreshed. Often. Responsibilities. Re-soak fabric in scented oils. Asterisk ring them by hand, test for smell strength, hang them in the right corners. Asterisk make sure no cloth was too overpowering. Asterisk imagine sniffing cloth all day like a human fragrance meter, trying not to pass out from concentrated rose oil. Kings lived richly. Asterisk their servants lived inside a constant headache. Let's float gently toward ancient Japan, where court beauty required countless hidden workers. Asterisk the sleeve straightener. A very specific job. Asterisk Heian court robes were enormous. Layers upon layers. Silk everywhere. Asterisk sleeves. Dragging like sleepy comets. Someone had to arrange them. Elegantly straighten folds, reposition. Trailing fabric. Asterisk ensure no robe looked emotionally disordered. Asterisk prevent tripping during formal events. Asterisk imagine spending 10 minutes arranging a noble woman's sleeve. Asterisk only for her to sneeze, shift slightly, and ruin everything. You quietly straighten it again. Another day, another sleeve. Asterisk travel slowly to ancient Rome again. Asterisk because Rome always needed more people doing small, specific things. The Forum shade adjuster. Human sun umbrella technician. Markets needed awnings. Awnings needed adjusting. Asterisk why. Roman sunlight was absolutely not joking. Tasks. Pull ropes to move the shade open cloth during heat. Close cloth during wind. Keep everything stable during crowds. Shout warnings if the fabric dipped. Imagine sweating under the sun while adjusting shades. For people who were relaxing under the shades, you just adjusted. Truly a philosophical job. Let's shift into ancient Egypt again, where the Nile affected every part of life, including mud. Asterisk the silt scraper. After the flood, someone had to fix things. Asterisk each year. The Nile flooded. Asterisk good for Farming, terrible for roads, so workers scraped silt off. Pathways, temple steps, asterisk, granary. Entrances, marketplaces, docks, asterisk, hours of dragging heavy mud off stone. Surfaces, asterisk, imagine someone praising the beauty of the Nile, while you stand knee-deep in sludge muttering, yeah, beautiful. Sure, float toward the Inca Empire, where vast terraces and sturdy architecture required endless upkeep. Asterisk, the potato overseer, an official title. Somehow asterisk potatoes were sacred and complicated, so the Inca assigned people to watch potato stores, inspect for rot, asterisk, check for moisture, rotate the piles, chase away rodents, record harvest variations. Yes, someone was literally paid to watch potatoes. Asterisk. Imagine sitting in a storage room staring at tubers for hours, thinking, asterisk, is that new wrinkle dangerous? Civilizations run on dedication, sometimes to vegetables, asterisk. All right, let's settle in for the final stretch. A slow exhale. Asterisk, a calm blink. Asterisk, we're landing this very gentle plane of forgotten labor, dusty tasks, and the quiet heroism of people who definitely deserved better contracts. No rush, no drama, asterisk, just a slow, peaceful finish. The ancient silence keeper. Yes, someone enforced quiet, asterisk, in some temples from Egypt to Mesopotamia. There was a person whose job was to stand around and keep people quiet. Not a guard, not a priest, just a human machine. Responsibilities included giving polite hand, gestures, maintaining calm, reminding people to whisper, guiding loud visitors outside, occasionally staring at someone, until they understood the message, asterisk, imagine someone arguing in the hallway, and you appear behind them silently like, no, a job made entirely of body language and disappointment. Asterisk, let's drift into one final world. Ancient Greece again, because even philosophers needed help. Asterisk, the scroll untangler, organizing other people's knowledge. Asterisk, philosophers owned scrolls, many scrolls, endless scrolls, and someone had to unfurl them, retie them, straighten edges, remove dust, clean mold spots, asterisk, reshelve them in the correct cubby, asterisk. Imagine sorting scrolls for a man who writes 30 pages a day about the nature of order, asterisk, and you're just standing there like, asterisk, yes sir, very philosophical. Now which scroll did you drop behind the table again? It's thankless, but someone did it. The last stop, the ancient door opener, asterisk, in palaces from Persia to China. This was a real job, a person assigned to open the sea. Door, close the door, open the door, again, asterisk, wait. Silently stand perfectly still hour after hour, asterisk, ceremony after ceremony, a human hinge. Imagine someone telling their family at dinner, asterisk, so, what do you do? Asterisk, oh, I open doors, asterisk, for anyone? Asterisk, no, just one guy. A career made of patience and ankle strength, asterisk, and now, the closing moment, asterisk, so, asterisk, we've wandered through mud and scrolls, through wells and workshops, through temples and courts, asterisk, finding dozens of people whose lives were built on tiny tasks that history quietly lost. Not warriors, not kings, not heroes in marble, asterisk, just people doing strange, repetitive jobs that kept entire civilizations running while the world barely noticed. Asterisk, and that's kind of comforting, in a sleepy way, because history isn't just battles and crowns. It's full of lamp trimmers, potato watchers, robe straighteners, and ink dryers, asterisk people who held everything together with patience, so quiet that time itself forgot their names. But tonight, you remembered them for just a few calm minutes. Their work drifted back into the light. So, whenever you're ready, you can rest your eyes, let the noise fade. Let your mind soften. You've just traveled through 1,000 years of human effort, all while barely lifting a muscle. Thanks for listening. Thanks for relaxing. And may your night be easier than the life of a medieval foot washer. Asterisk, good night.